Lyra Vesh knelt in the dust of a tomb that had been sealed for 4,000 years. Her hands trembled as she brushed away the final layer of dirt from the stone wall. There it was again. The same symbol she had seen 4 times before, carved into the ruins of 4 different civilizations, each one extinct, each one forgotten by the galaxy. The glyph was simple but unmistakable. A circle with radiating lines like a sun. Beneath it, words in an ancient script that her translator slowly decoded. The message appeared on her screen, and Lyra felt her stomach twist into knots. They sleep peacefully. Let them sleep. We did not listen. Now we are only dust and memory. Below the warning was a crude drawing of a planet. Blue and green with swirling white clouds. Professor Vesh, we really need to go, called her assistant from the entrance of the tomb. The sandstorm will be here in 20 minutes. I need more time, Lyra said, her voice barely a whisper. She took photographs from every angle, her mind racing. This was the 5th dead civilization. The 5th warning. The pattern was impossible to ignore now. She stood up slowly, her knees aching from kneeling on the hard stone floor. At 43 years old, Lyra had spent half her life studying dead civilizations. She had crawled through collapsed temples, decoded forgotten languages, and pieced together the final days of species that had vanished from the galaxy long ago. But nothing she had ever found had frightened her like this. The Velkari Empire. The Thorian Collective. The Shin Dynasty. The Korvax Republic. The Praxis Federation. All of them advanced, powerful civilizations that had dominated their regions of space. All of them gone within 2 to 3 centuries of each other. And now she knew why. They had all attacked humanity. Lyra climbed back up the ancient stairs, her assistant helping her into their survey ship. As the vessel lifted off, she watched the sandstorm engulf the tomb below. The dead civilization's warning would be buried again, just as it had been buried for millennia. Just as the civilization itself had been buried. The flight back to Caltharian space took 3 days. Lyra spent every waking hour reviewing her research, building her case, preparing her evidence. She had to make them understand. She had to make them listen. The Caltharian Empire was making a terrible mistake. 2 weeks ago, Chancellor Torvin had stood before the High Council and declared his intention to seize human colony ships traveling through the disputed territories of the Outer Rim. The humans had established 6 small colonies on resource-rich worlds that the Caltharians claimed as their own. Torvin said the humans were trespassing. He said they were thieves. He said they needed to be taught a lesson. The council had agreed. The vote was unanimous. Lyra had tried to speak. She had requested an emergency session to present her findings. She had sent detailed reports, archaeological evidence, historical data. All of it ignored. All of it dismissed. Ancient superstitions, Council member Brath had said during one brief meeting. You're talking about civilizations that died thousands of years ago. Whatever destroyed them has nothing to do with humans today. But Lyra knew better. She had studied the timelines carefully. Each civilization had flourished for thousands of years before their encounter with humanity. The Velkari had existed for 11,000 years. The Thorians for 9,000. They were not weak species. They were not primitive. They had built wonders that the current galaxy could barely imagine. And then they had attacked Earth. And then they had died. Now, as Lyra's ship entered orbit around Caltharia Prime, the capital world of her people, she watched the news feeds with a sense of doom. The military operation had already begun. 3 days ago, Caltharian warships had intercepted and seized a human colony ship called the New Dawn. The ship had been carrying 5,000 colonists and their supplies. The Caltharian military had taken them all prisoner. Yesterday they had captured 2 more ships. The Morning Star and the Horizon's Hope. Another 8,000 humans now sat in Caltharian detention facilities. The humans had responded with diplomatic messages. Calm, measured requests for negotiation. They asked for the return of their people. They offered to discuss the territorial disputes peacefully. They suggested mediation by neutral third parties. Chancellor Torvin had rejected every offer. This morning, he had given a speech that was broadcast across the entire Caltharian Empire. The humans are weak, Torvin had said, his voice full of confidence. They have no significant military presence in our region of space. They are farmers and traders, nothing more. They build gardens in the void and write poetry about the stars. They are not warriors. They are not a threat. Their ships, their resources, their colonies will now belong to us. This is our right as the dominant power in this sector. The crowd had cheered. The military commanders had saluted. The news commentators had praised Torvin's strength and vision. Lyra had felt sick. She had tried one more time to get an audience with the Chancellor. She had called in every favor, contacted every friend in government, pleaded with anyone who would listen. Finally, after 2 days of constant effort, she was granted 15 minutes with junior council member Kiras, an elderly historian who had some influence with Torvin. Kiras met her in a small office near the council chambers. He was a thin man with gray skin and kind eyes. He had read some of her research years ago and seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. "I have 15 minutes, Kiras said gently. "Tell me what you found." Lyra opened her data tablet and showed him everything. The glyphs, the warnings, the timeline, the pattern of extinction that followed every civilization that had made war on humanity. 5 civilizations, she said urgently. 5 advanced, powerful civilizations. All of them attacked humanity during the first few centuries after humans joined the galactic community. All of them extinct within 1 generation. This isn't coincidence. This is cause and effect. Kira studied the data carefully. His expression grew more serious with each piece of evidence. When Lyra finished, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. "You believe the humans destroyed them all," he said quietly. "I don't just believe it," Lyra said. "The evidence is clear. Every single one of these civilizations left warnings in their final days. Warnings specifically about Earth. About humanity. About waking warriors who should be left to sleep." "Warriors," Kira's repeated. "But the humans today show no signs of military strength. They have a small defense force, nothing more. They focus on exploration, science, agriculture. That's what makes them dangerous," Lyra said. "They chose peace. But they didn't forget war. These warnings all say the same thing: they sleep. Not that they're gone. Not that they're weak. That they sleep." Kiras opened his eyes and looked at her. "I will take this to Chancellor Torvin immediately. He needs to see this." But it was already too late. As Lyra left the building, her communicator buzzed with a news alert. The Keltharian military had just captured a 4th human colony ship. Admiral Zax was giving an interview, smiling broadly, declaring the operation a complete success. "The humans are offering no resistance," Zax said. "This proves what we've known all along. They are not warriors. They are prey." Lyra looked up at the sky, at the stars beyond, and wondered how long they had before Earth responded. Before the warriors woke up. Before her civilization learned the lesson that 5 others had learned before them. Before the Keltharians became dust and memory just like all the others. The 6th human colony ship fell to Keltharian forces on a Tuesday morning. The vessel was called the Bright Future, and it carried 3,000 colonists heading to establish a farming settlement on a distant world. Commander Zax's fleet surrounded it within minutes. The human captain sent no distress call. No plea for help. No attempt to fight. The ship simply stopped and allowed itself to be boarded. Chancellor Torvin watched the footage from his office on Keltharia Prime. He smiled as Keltharian soldiers marched through the human ship's corridors, taking the colonists into custody. Men, women, children. All of them calm. All of them peaceful. Not one act of resistance. 18,000 humans now in our custody, Torvin said to his advisors. And not a single shot fired in defense. I told you they were weak. His communication officer entered the room looking nervous. "Chancellor, we've received a transmission from Earth. It's marked urgent." "Let me guess," Torvin said, still smiling. "More diplomatic protests? More requests for negotiation?" "No, sir," the officer said quietly. "It's different this time." The message played on the main screen. No face appeared. No diplomat or politician. Just text, simple and plain, transmitted on all frequencies that the Keltharian Empire used. "This is Earth Central Command to the Keltharian Empire. You have seized 6 civilian vessels and 18,000 of our citizens. You have 48 hours to release them unharmed and withdraw from all human colonial territories. This is your only warning. Cease immediately or face consequences." The room fell silent. Then Torvin laughed. It started as a chuckle and grew into full laughter that echoed off the walls. "Consequences?" he repeated, wiping his eyes. "They threaten us with consequences. What will they do? Send strongly worded letters? Perhaps they'll write sad poems about their lost colonists." His advisors laughed too, though some looked less certain. Torvin waved his hand dismissively. "Send a reply. Tell Earth that these territories belong to the Keltharian Empire now. Tell them their colonists are prisoners of war. And tell them if they want consequences, we'll give them consequences." He turned to Admiral Zax on the communication screen. "Admiral, you have my permission to seize any other human vessels you encounter. Show them what happens when they challenge Keltharian authority. Yes, Chancellor, Zack said, saluting sharply. Across the city, Lyra Vesh sat in her apartment, watching the news with growing horror. The broadcasts were celebrating. Victory parades were being planned. The military was being praised for its decisive action. No one seemed to understand what was coming. Her communicator chimed. It was Kira's, the junior council member who had listened to her warnings. Lyra, can you come to my office immediately? His voice was shaking. Something has happened. Something the public doesn't know about yet. Lyra arrived within the hour. Kira's looked like he had aged 10 years since she last saw him. His hands trembled as he activated a secure communication channel. I'm showing you this because you were right, he said quietly. And because someone needs to understand what's coming. He played a recording. It was an intercepted transmission, picked up by Keltharian listening posts near Earth's solar system. The transmission was encrypted, but Keltharian intelligence had broken the code. A woman's voice spoke in clear, precise tones. Protocol Valkyrie is now active. All reserve units report for immediate deployment. Authorization code, Broken Arrow. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Lyra felt her blood turn to ice. What is Protocol Valkyrie? Kira's pulled up more data on his screen. Our intelligence analysts have been trying to figure that out for the past 6 hours. They found references to it in old human databases. It's a military protocol that was established 150 years ago, shortly after humans joined the galactic community. He showed her a document translated from human languages. It was a military directive, stamped with official Earth government seals. In the interest of galactic peace, the document read, Earth's military forces will be reduced to minimal defensive levels. All combat veterans will enter reserve status. They will return to civilian life. They will build, create, explore and contribute to society. But they will remain ready. Should Earth or her citizens face existential threat, Protocol Valkyrie will activate. And the warriors will wake. Lyra stared at the words. 150 years. They've been at peace for 150 years. Not peace, Kira said softly. Rest. There's a difference. He pulled up more files. Service records. Personnel databases. The names went on and on. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. These are the reserve units being activated, Kira said. Every single one of them is a veteran. Some fought in the last human conflicts before they joined the galactic community. Others trained under those veterans, maintaining combat readiness even during peacetime. One name caught Lyra's attention. Captain Elena Reeves. Age 41. Service record, 23 years. Combat experience, classified. Current status, activated. Who is she? Lyra asked. Kira's pulled up more information. She was a civilian until 3 days ago. She ran a farm on Earth, growing crops and raising animals. Before that, she was a Special Forces commander. Her unit conducted operations that are still classified. She's been civilian for 12 years. And now she's not, Lyra whispered. None of them are, Kira said. According to our intelligence, Earth is activating over 10,000 reserve warriors. And that's just the first wave. There are more behind them. Many more. He showed her another file. Ship movements. Naval vessels that had been in storage or used for peaceful exploration were being refitted. Weapons systems that had been dormant were coming online. Factories that produced farming equipment were now producing something else. They're mobilizing, Lyra said. This is what happened to the other civilizations. This is how it starts. Kira's nodded slowly. I tried to show this to Chancellor Torvin. He refused to see me. He says I'm being paranoid. He says the humans are bluffing. They're not bluffing, Lyra said. She thought about the warnings carved into ancient tombs. The desperate final messages of civilizations that had made this same mistake. The other civilizations thought the same thing. They thought human peace meant human weakness. They didn't understand that humans chose peace. They didn't understand what humans were capable of when that choice was taken away. Her communicator buzzed. A message marked priority. She opened it and felt her hands start shaking. It was from an archaeological colleague on a research station near the border territories. The message was short and terrified. Lyra, human ships just passed our station. Military vessels. They moved in formation unlike anything I've ever seen. Perfect coordination. Perfect discipline. They didn't respond to our hails. They just kept moving toward Keltharian space. I checked our databases. These ship types haven't been seen in active service for over a century. Lyra, what's happening? What did we do? Lyra looked at Kiris. We woke them up. That's what we did. 48 hours had passed since Earth's warning. Chancellor Torvin had not released the prisoners. He had not withdrawn. Instead, he had ordered the seizure of 2 more human ships. On Earth, in a military facility that had been quiet for 150 years, Captain Elena Reeves stood with her unit. 200 men and women, all veterans, all ready. They had left their farms, their families, their peaceful lives. They had put on uniforms they hoped they would never wear again. They had picked up weapons they had hoped were put down forever. Elena looked at her soldiers. She knew every one of them. They had served together, bled together, then chosen peace together. And now they were warriors again. Let's go bring our people home, she said quietly. The ships departed Earth, heading toward Keltharian space. Behind them, more ships were preparing. More warriors were waking. The ancient civilizations had learned this lesson too late. The Keltharians were about to learn it now. Peace is not weakness. It is a choice. And when that choice is taken away, warriors do what warriors do. They fight. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Commander Zax sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Dominant Will, confident and relaxed. His fleet of 12 warships patrolled the border zone where Keltharian space met the disputed territories. They were the pride of the Empire, equipped with the latest weapons and shields, crewed by the best-trained soldiers in Keltharian service. When the sensors detected incoming vessels, Zax barely looked up from his reports. Identity? He asked casually. Human ships, Commander, his sensor officer reported. 6 vessels. Frigate class. They're not responding to our hails. Zax smiled. Only 6 ships? They must be here to beg for their colonists back. He opened a channel. Human vessels, you are entering Keltharian military space. Turn back or be destroyed. No response came. The human ships kept moving forward, their formation tight and precise. Sir, they're not slowing down, the sensor officer said, a hint of worry in his voice. Then we'll teach them a lesson, Zax said. He pressed the fleet-wide communication button. All ships, power weapons. Target the human vessels. Fire on my command. The 12 Keltharian warships moved into attack formation. They were larger than the human frigates, better armed, more heavily shielded. This would be over quickly. Fire, Zax commanded. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every shot should have hit. But the human vessels moved. They didn't just dodge. They flowed like water, each ship moving in perfect harmony with the others, slipping through the weapon's fire as if they knew exactly where each shot would be before it was fired. What? Zax started to say. Then the human ships fired back. The first Keltharian warship exploded before anyone understood what was happening. The human weapons didn't just hit the shields. They hit the exact points where the shield generators were located, destroying them instantly, then following up with precise strikes to the ship's power core. The second ship died 3 seconds later. Same pattern. Shields collapsed, then the power core detonated. Evasive maneuvers. Zax screamed. Return fire. All ships, scatter formation. But scattering didn't help. The human ships moved faster, turned tighter, coordinated better. They fought as one mind controlling 6 bodies. Every movement was calculated. Every shot was perfect. There was no wasted effort, no random firing, no panic. 3 more Keltharian ships exploded in rapid succession. The human vessels barely slowed down. They wove through the Keltharian fleet like they were dancing, destroying everything they touched. Zax watched his tactical display in horror as ship after ship vanished from the screen. His communications officer was screaming damage reports. His weapons officer kept firing but couldn't hit anything. The human ships were always somewhere else, always one step ahead. Retreat. Zax finally shouted. All ships, jump to hyperspace immediately. The surviving 7 ships of his fleet powered up their jump drives and fled. Behind them, the 6 human frigates stopped pursuing. They simply took up position in the space where the battle had occurred, waiting silently. Zax looked at his casualty reports. 5 ships destroyed. 3,000 Keltharian soldiers dead. The humans had suffered exactly 0 casualties. 0 damage. In 4 minutes, they had cut through the Empire's finest fleet like it was nothing. Get me Chancellor Torvin, Zax said, his voice hollow. Get him now. Across the Empire, the news spread like wildfire. The military tried to suppress it, but too many people had seen the sensor data. Too many survivors told the same story. The humans had fought like nothing anyone had ever witnessed. Perfect precision. Perfect coordination. Perfect lethality. Lyra heard about the battle while she was in the archives of ancient civilizations, desperately searching for more information. She had been awake for 36 hours straight, reading every record she could find about the extinct species that had left warnings about humanity. When the news broke, Kyrus called her immediately. "Did you see?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I saw," Lyra said quietly. "It's starting. Just like it did before." "How do they fight like that?" Kyrus asked. "Our military analysts are going insane trying to understand it. The coordination. The precision. It's like they can read minds." "They don't need to read minds," Lyra said. She had just found something in the Valkyrie records. Something that made her blood run cold. They just need practice. She sent Kyrus the file she had discovered. It was a Valkyrie military analysis from 4,000 years ago, written shortly before their civilization collapsed. "The humans are not like us," the ancient document read. "We evolved on peaceful worlds. We learned warfare late when we reached the stars and met others. But humans evolved through warfare. For 10,000 years they fought each other on their homeworld. They created weapons to kill their own kind. They developed tactics against opponents who thought exactly like them. By the time they stopped fighting each other and joined the galaxy, they had perfected the art of war in ways we cannot comprehend." Kyrus read the document in silence. When he finished, he said nothing for a long moment. 10,000 years, he finally whispered. "They spent 10,000 years learning how to kill. And then they stopped," Lyra said. "That's what everyone forgets. They stopped. They chose peace. They put away their weapons. They became farmers and scientists and explorers. But they didn't forget. They couldn't forget. It's in their bones. In their blood. In their history." She pulled up more records. The Thorian Collective had written something similar. So had the Shin dynasty. Every civilization that fought humans had realized the same truth, but only after it was too late. "Humans don't see warfare as glory," Lyra read from a Thorian document. "They see it as horror. They see it as necessary evil. They are good at it precisely because they hate it. They studied it, perfected it, mastered it so they could end it. When we attacked them, we didn't face soldiers seeking honor. We faced warriors trying to end a war as quickly and efficiently as possible." Kyrus made a choking sound. "How do we fight that?" "We don't," Lyra said simply. "That's the lesson. That's what the warnings meant. Every civilization that fought humanity tried to defeat them. Every civilization failed. The humans don't fight for territory or resources or glory. They fight to protect their own. And they fight with the skill of a species that survived 10,000 years of warfare against themselves." She pulled up the tactical data from Zax's battle. 6 human ships against 12 Keltharian warships. Complete victory in 4 minutes. "Look at how they moved," she said. "Every ship knew where every other ship would be. Every shot was coordinated with every other shot. This isn't just training. This is instinct built over millennia. This is what happens when warfare is part of your evolution." More news was coming in. Human fleets were appearing across multiple sectors. Not invading. Just positioning. Waiting. Each fleet moved with the same impossible coordination. Each engagement ended the same way. Keltharian forces destroyed or scattered. 0 human casualties. The military command was in chaos. Chancellor Torvin had stopped appearing in public. The High Council was in emergency session. Across the Empire, people were starting to panic. Lyra returned to the tomb where she had found the first warning. She read the words again, understanding them now in a way she hadn't before. "They sleep peacefully. Let them sleep." It wasn't a warning about monsters. It wasn't a threat about some terrible weapon. It was simpler than that. It was a warning about waking something that had chosen to rest. Something that had put aside violence not because it was weak, but because it was strong enough to choose peace. The Valkyrie had woken the warriors. The Thorians had woken them. The Shin, the Korvax, the Praxis, all of them had made the same mistake. They had seen peace and thought it was weakness. They had seen farmers and thought they were soft. They had seen choice and thought it was inability. Now the Keltharians were learning the truth. The humans had not been unable to fight. They had simply chosen not to. But now the choice was made. The warriors were awake. And they fought with the skill of a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war before finally, mercifully, choosing to stop. Lyra looked up at the stars and wondered how long it would take. How long before the Keltharian Empire joined the list of dead civilizations? How long before someone else found their ruins and their warnings? How long before they too became dust and memory? The attack came at midnight across 30 different worlds. Captain Elena Reeves stood on the bridge of her ship, the Silent Storm, watching her tactical display. 30 targets. 30 strike teams. All moving at exactly the same moment. The coordination had taken weeks to plan, but the execution would take only hours. All teams report ready, her communications officer said. Elena nodded. She thought about the farm she had left behind on Earth. The apple trees she had planted. The peaceful mornings watching the sunrise. She had hoped never to do this again. But 18,000 civilians were still prisoners. Her people. And the Keltharians had refused every offer of peace. Begin operation, she said quietly. Across Keltharian space, human strike teams moved like ghosts. They had studied every target for days. Military command centers. Weapons depots. Shipyards. Communications hubs. Every installation that supported the Keltharian war machine. But nothing else. No civilian centers. No cities. No farms or homes or schools. Elena's team hit a major military base on the border world of Kelthax 7. The base housed 3,000 soldiers and controlled the defense network for 6 nearby systems. It was heavily fortified, equipped with the best sensors and weapons the Empire could provide. The human team bypassed all of it. They didn't attack from space where the sensors would see them. They didn't bombard the base with heavy weapons. Instead, they inserted silently, moving through blind spots in the sensor coverage, cutting power to specific systems, disabling communications before anyone knew they were there. By the time the Keltharian soldiers realized they were under attack, it was over. The command center was destroyed. The weapons were disabled. The hangars where their fighters were stored were sealed shut. And not a single Keltharian soldier had been killed. All personnel have evacuated to safe zones, Elena's second-in-command reported. No casualties. Good, Elena said. Move to extraction point. It was the same across all 30 targets. Surgical strikes. Perfect precision. Every military installation disabled or destroyed. Every Keltharian soldier given the chance to surrender or evacuate. The humans were not here to kill. They were here to remove the Keltharian military's ability to fight. By dawn, 70% of the Keltharian Empire's military infrastructure was gone. In his office on Keltharia Prime, Chancellor Torvin stared at the damage reports in disbelief. 30 bases. Gone in one night. The casualty numbers were low, barely 300 soldiers killed, but only because the humans had given warnings, allowed evacuations, targeted empty areas when possible. They're toying with us, he whispered. They could have killed thousands. Tens of thousands. His advisor, a military analyst named Vorn, shook his head. No, Chancellor. They're showing us what they could do if they wanted to. This is mercy. This is a demonstration. Mercy? Torvin's voice cracked. They've crippled our military. They've crippled our ability to threaten them, Vorn corrected. But they haven't touched our cities. Our civilian infrastructure is untouched. Our people are safe. They're only destroying our capacity to make war. Kiras entered the office without knocking. The old historian looked exhausted, but his eyes were fierce. He carried a data tablet loaded with files. You need to read this, Kiras said, his voice hard. You need to understand what you've done. I don't need a history lesson, Torvin snapped. Yes you do, Kiras shot back. Because history is repeating itself, and you're too blind to see it. He activated the tablet, showing Torvin the research Lyra had compiled. The 5 dead civilizations. The warnings. The pattern. The Velkari Empire, Kiras said. Population, 40 billion. They attacked human colonies 4,000 years ago. 50 years later they were extinct. Not a single Velkari survived. He pulled up more data. The Thorian Collective. Population, 70 billion. They declared war on humanity. 3 generations later they were gone. The Shin Dynasty. The Korvax Republic. The Praxis Federation. All of them powerful. All of them ancient. All of them dead within 100 years of attacking Earth. Torvin stared at the numbers. 40 billion people. Gone in 50 years. How? Because they didn't stop, Kiras said. That's what Lyra discovered. Each civilization thought they could win. They kept fighting. They kept attacking. And the humans kept responding. Each time more precisely. Each time more effectively. Until there was nothing left. He showed Torvin the military analyses from the ancient civilizations. Reports written in their final days, desperate attempts to understand what had happened. The humans don't fight like we do, Kiras read from a Velkari document. We fight for glory, for honor, for territory. They fight to end the fight. Every battle is calculated to bring them closer to peace. When we destroyed one of their colonies, they destroyed 10 of our military bases. When we killed their soldiers, they crippled our ability to kill more. They don't seek revenge. They seek conclusion. Another document from the Thorian Collective. We thought we were fighting warriors who loved battle. We were wrong. We were fighting warriors who hated war so much they became perfect at it so they could end it faster. Every human attack is designed not to kill us, but to remove our ability to fight. But when we refuse to stop, when we refuse to surrender, they have no choice but to continue. And they will continue until we cannot fight anymore. Even if that means we cease to exist. Torvin's hands were shaking. They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to stop us. Yes, Kira said. They're trying to stop you from making war. But you won't stop. You keep refusing their peace offers. You keep holding their civilians prisoner. And so they keep removing pieces of your military. Right now they're being careful. They're being precise. They're avoiding casualties. But what happens when you force them to stop being careful? He pulled up the final document. A message from the last surviving Praxis leader, written days before their civilization ended. We thought they were monsters, the message read. We were wrong. They're not monsters. They're survivors. They survived 10,000 years of warfare on their own world. They learned that the only way to keep peace is to make war so terrible, so absolute, so devastating, that no one dares break it. We dared. Now we pay the price. To whoever finds this, do not wake Earth's warriors. Do not make them choose between your life and theirs, because they will always choose their own. And they are very, very good at making that choice reality. The office fell silent. Torvin looked at his military reports again. 70% losses in one night. And the humans had been holding back. They had been careful. They had been merciful. How many ships do they have? Torvin asked quietly. We don't know, Vorn said. Our intelligence suggests thousands. Maybe more. And those are just the active military vessels. They have civilian ships that can be converted. They have reserves that haven't been activated yet. They have production facilities that are just now starting to build new ships. And they're all like Captain Reeves, Kira's added. All of them veterans. All of them trained. All of them experienced. While we train soldiers for a few years, they have warriors who have spent decades perfecting their skills. While our people view military service as duty, their people view it as a burden they took up so others wouldn't have to. They don't fight because they want to. They fight because someone has to. And that makes them more dangerous than any species that loves war. Torvin stood up slowly. He walked to his window and looked out at the city below. People going about their lives. Families. Children. All of them unaware that their civilization was on the edge of extinction. The prisoners, he said finally. The 18,000 humans we captured. Are they alive? Yes, Chancellor, Vorn said. We've treated them well. No harm has come to them. That's the only reason we're still here, Kira said. The only reason they haven't destroyed us completely. They're waiting to see if we'll make the right choice. Torvin turned back to face them. What choice? Peace, Kira said simply. Real peace. Release their people. Withdraw from their territory. Stop fighting. It's the only way. Because if we don't, if we keep pushing, keep refusing, keep fighting, then we'll join the other 5. We'll become another warning carved into ancient ruins. Another dead civilization that didn't listen. Torvin looked at the reports again. 70% military losses. 0 human casualties. Perfect precision. Perfect control. Perfect power. They're not monsters, he whispered, echoing Kira's words. They're survivors. Yes, Kira said. And they're giving us a chance to survive too. The question is, are you smart enough to take it? The human fleet arrived at Caltheria Prime on a cold morning, when the twin suns were just rising over the capital city. There were hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. They filled the orbital space around the homeworld of the Caltherian Empire, a dark wall of vessels that blocked out the stars. But they did not attack. Lyra stood on the observation deck of the planetary defense station, watching the fleet position itself. The ships moved with the same perfect coordination she had seen in every report, every battle record. They formed a sphere around the planet, equidistant from each other, creating a complete blockade. And then they stopped. Right at the orbital boundary. Not one ship crossed into the space where weapons could target the surface. Not one ship powered up bombardment systems. They just waited. Why aren't they attacking? Asked the defense station commander, a young officer named Trev who looked terrified. Because they don't want to, Lyra said softly. They never wanted to. Her communicator chimed. An incoming message on a secure channel. The source identifier made her heart skip. It was a direct communication from one of the human ships, addressed specifically to her. With trembling hands she accepted the call. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She had dark hair tied back, tired eyes, and a calm expression. She wore a human military uniform with captain's insignia. Behind her, Lyra could see the bridge of a warship, efficient and functional. "Dr. Lyra Vesh?" the woman asked. "Yes," Lyra managed to say. "I'm Captain Elena Reeves, Earth Defense Forces. I'm told you're the one who tried to warn your government. The one who found the ancient records." Lyra nodded, not trusting her voice. Elena's expression softened slightly. "Then you understand why we're here. And you understand that we don't want to be here." "I understand," Lyra said. "Good." Elena glanced at something off-screen then looked back. "I'm going to be direct, Dr. Vesh. We're tired. We want to go home. We want to return to our farms and our families and our peaceful lives. We didn't choose this war. Your government chose it for us. But we can end it. Right now. Today." She leaned forward. "Here are our terms. Your government releases all 18,000 prisoners immediately and unharmed. You withdraw completely from all disputed territories and recognize them as human colonial space. You pay reparations for the ships you seized and the damage you caused. And you sign a peace treaty guaranteeing no further hostilities." Elena paused. "In exchange we go home. We leave your worlds untouched. Your people unharmed. Your civilization intact. We don't want your territory. We don't want your resources. We don't want revenge. We just want peace." "And if we refuse?" Lyra asked, though she already knew the answer. Elena's face became hard. "Then we do what we have to do. We remove your government, dismantle your military completely, and occupy your worlds until we're certain you can never threaten anyone again. It would take years. Many people would die. Both yours and ours. We would hate every moment of it. But we would do it. Because the alternative is letting you continue to threaten our people. And that's not something we can allow." She leaned back. "I need you to take this message to Chancellor Torvin. I need you to make him understand that we're offering him something precious. We're offering him a choice. The 5 civilizations that came before you didn't get that choice. They refused to stop until it was too late. We're giving your people a chance to survive. Tell him to take it." The communication ended. Lyra stood in silence, staring at the empty screen. Around her, the defense station crew waited nervously. "What do we do?" Trev asked. "I need to speak to the Chancellor," Lyra said. "Right now." An hour later, Lyra stood in the High Council chamber. It was the first time she had ever been allowed inside. Chancellor Torvin sat at the head of the table, looking 20 years older than he had a week ago. Kiraz was there too, along with what remained of the military command and the council members. Lyra delivered Elena's message word for word. When she finished, the room erupted in argument. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to negotiate for better terms. Torvin silenced them all with a raised hand. "Dr. Vesh," he said quietly, "you've studied the dead civilizations. You know what happened to them. Tell me honestly. If we refuse these terms, what happens to us?" Lyra thought about the ruins she had explored. The warnings carved into stone. The desperate final messages of species that had once filled the galaxy with their presence. "You cease to exist," she said simply. "Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But within a generation the Caltharian people will be extinct. That's what the historical record shows. That's what happened to all the others who refused to stop. But we have defenses," one of the military commanders protested. "We have fortifications, shields, weapons." "So did the Valkyrie," Lyra interrupted. "They had 40 billion people and the most advanced military in their region. It didn't matter. So did the Thorians with 70 billion. So did all the others. The humans don't fight to win battles. They fight to end wars. And they're very, very good at it." Torvin closed his eyes. "And if we accept? If we give them what they want? Then we survive," Lyra said. "We survive because we learned the lesson the others didn't. We stopped before it was too late." "They'll leave?" Torvin asked. "They'll really just go home?" "That's what they want," Kiraz said. "They don't want our worlds. They don't want to rule us. They just want to be left alone. That's all they've ever wanted." Torvin sat in silence for a long moment. Then he looked up at his military commanders. "Do we have any chance of winning if we fight?" The commanders looked at each other. Finally, Admiral Zax, who had barely survived the first battle, spoke. "No, Chancellor. None at all." "Then why would I send our people to die for nothing?" Torvin asked. He sounded broken, defeated. Why would I destroy our civilization for pride? He stood up slowly. Release the prisoners. All of them. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them we accept their terms. All of their terms. Chancellor, one of the council members started to protest. No, Torvin said firmly. This ends now. Today. I won't be the leader who destroyed our people because I was too stubborn to accept peace. He looked at Lyra. You tried to warn us. We should have listened. Maybe if we had, none of this would have happened. The next day the 18,000 human prisoners were released. They were tired, scared, but unharmed. The Keltharian guards had treated them well, knowing that their own lives depended on it. The humans were transported to the fleet in orbit, reunited with their people. Lyra watched the shuttles rise into the sky, carrying the freed prisoners to the waiting ships. Elena's ship sent her one final message. Thank you for trying, Dr. Vesh. Thank you for understanding. Maybe others will learn from your example. Within a week, the human fleet was gone. They had dismantled some Keltharian military installations to ensure compliance, but they had touched nothing else. No cities bombed. No civilians harmed. No occupation. They had come, achieved their goal, and left. Just like they said they would. Lyra returned to the ruins where she had found the first warning. She stood before the ancient glyph, the circle with radiating lines, the crude drawing of Earth. She activated her recorder and began a new entry for the archaeological database. The Keltharian Empire encountered humanity and made the same mistake 5 previous civilizations had made. We attacked their people. We dismissed their warnings. We underestimated their capabilities. But unlike those other civilizations, we survived. We survived because we learned the lesson in time. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The humans are not monsters. They are not conquerors. They are warriors who chose peace. And when we forced them to become warriors again, they showed us mercy we did not deserve. They could have destroyed us. They had every reason to. Instead, they offered us a choice. And we were wise enough, finally, to choose correctly. She looked up at the ancient warning. To any species that finds this record in the future, the warnings are real. Every dead civilization had one rule. Never wake Earth's warriors. Not because they are cruel. Not because they are evil. But because they are survivors who learned that the only way to keep peace is to be so good at war that no one dares break it. They sleep peacefully. Let them sleep. If you wake them, give them what they ask for. Because what they ask for is always the same thing. Peace. And if you refuse to give them peace, they will take it. One way or another. She saved the recording and walked back to her ship. Above, in the night sky, she could see the stars clearly again. The human fleet was gone. Back to Earth. Back to their farms and families. Back to sleep. And the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief. Because everyone now understood the lesson. Everyone now knew why you never wake Earth's warriors. Not because they couldn't be beaten. But because beating them meant destroying yourself in the process. And because when you gave them the choice between war and peace, they would always choose peace. As long as you let them.